Hey everybody, today on Political Access we're going to take a look at the presidential shifts between 1988 and 1992. And this is pretty much going to see how well George H.W. Bush dropped off between his first and his second run. In 1988 he won convincingly, carrying 40 states, over 400 electoral votes, over 53% of the popular vote. And then in 1992 the wheels completely came off and he only carried 18 states, got 168 electoral votes. Now, a lot of that is going to be because of Ross Perot, the third-party candidate. He didn't win any states in 92, but he did get almost 19% of the vote nationally. So that is a significant factor that's going to have caused a lot of these states to have shifted pretty hard to the left. So let's not waste any more time. Here's my usual spreadsheet. It might not be the prettiest, but I did take the time to make it. And in the first column, we have the states, followed by the 1988 Democratic vote. That's Michael Dukakis. The 88 Republican vote, George H.W. Bush. Jump ahead to the 1992 Democratic vote. That's Bill Clinton. And then the 92 Republican vote, again George H.W. Bush. Then the Democratic shifts between those two elections, followed by the Republican shifts. And finally, the last column is the net change between the two parties between those two elections. And then I have the shading. The darkest colors are going to be 10 or more point shifts, and there's a lot of them on here. The lightest colors, those are going to be under 5-point shifts. So let's not waste any time. Let's start in Alabama. In 1988, Michael Dukakis, the Democrat, got 39.9% of the vote. George H.W. Bush, he got 59.2%. 4 years later, Bill Clinton, he bumped it up to 40.9%. George H.W. Bush, he fell off to 47.7%, and that's a net gain of 1% for the Democrat, a net loss of 11.5% for the Republican, and a total net shift of 12.5% away from the Republicans and toward the Democrats. Again, we know Ross Perot, some of these states, he's more of a factor than others. But keep that in mind as we quickly go through the rest of these states. And these are all shifts toward the Democrats. Alaska went 14.1, Arizona 19.3, Arkansas, look at that, 31.9. And that's probably because Bill Clinton, his home state was Arkansas, but it's impressive nonetheless. California, that shifted 16.9, Colorado, an even 12%, Connecticut, 11.5%, Delaware, 20.6%, Florida, 20.5%, and Georgia, 20.9%. A lot of big shifts there toward Bill Clinton. The next state is Hawaii. That also shifted toward Clinton, but by a very small 1.9% in comparison to these other states. Idaho shifted more toward the Democrats by 12.5%, Illinois by 16.4%, and Indiana by 14%. And now we come to Iowa, and that was the only state that actually shifted toward George H.W. Bush, the Republican. It got 4.2% redder. Not exactly sure why that was the outlier state, but it's interesting to note. Kansas got 8.1% bluer. Kentucky, same direction toward the left by 14.9%, Louisiana by 14.8%, Maine 19.8%, Maryland 17.1%, Massachusetts 10.7%, and Michigan 15.3%. And the next state is Minnesota, that also went bluer, but only by single digits, 4.6%. Mississippi shifted toward the Democrats by 11.9%, Missouri by 14.1%, Montana 8.4%, Nebraska 3.8%. And more big shifts here, away from the Republicans toward the Democrats. Nevada, 23.7%, New Hampshire, 27.4%, New Jersey, 16%, New Mexico, 13.6%, New York, 11.7%, North Carolina, 15.6%, North Dakota, minimal change there, 1% toward the Democrats, Ohio, 12.6%, Oklahoma, 7.9%, Oregon, 5.3%, Pennsylvania, 11.4%, Rhode Island 6.3%, South Carolina 15.8%, South Dakota, small change there, 2.8% away from the GOP. Tennessee had a major shift of 21%, Texas 9.1%, Utah 15.4%. That was also one of two states along with Maine where Ross Perot finished in second place. In Utah he got over 27% of the vote. Vermont went 19.2% toward the left, Virginia same direction by 16.1%, Washington State 9.8%, West Virginia 8.1%, Wisconsin, very little change there, 0.7% toward the Democrat. And finally, the last state here is Wyoming, and that went 16.9% toward the Democrats. So those are all the states, but I also have Washington, D.C. on here, and that shifted 7.1% toward the Democrats. So those are all the states and all the shifts. And as usual, we could also take all this data and apply it to a map to help visualize the changes. Here it is. It's the same basic shading. The darkest colors, those are 10 or more point shifts. The very lightest colors, those are under 1 point shifts. Those would be the tilt margins. There's only one of them on here, and that's Wisconsin. So there's 4 levels of shading to show the severity of the shifts. And Nebraska and Maine, I just have the at-large data. It's a bit more difficult to get the shifts, especially in Nebraska, but either way, I just wanted to focus on the statewide shifts. And what are the takeaways here? Well, as I already said, everything fell apart here for Bush, complicated by Ross Perot, the very strong third-party candidate. If Ross Perot was not on the ballot, it is highly debatable if George H.W. Bush would have been able to squeak out a win, or if Bill Clinton was just too charismatic, too young, and had a new vision for the country, and he was going to win anyway. There's a lot of what-ifs, but this is a bad map if you are George H.W. Bush or if you're a Republican. But that's what happens in '88. Again, Bush won 40 states. He pretty much dominated across the country. A lot of those states have not gone red since, so he started from a high point and fell off a cliff. He has one bright spot here in Iowa. A few other states had small blue shifts, but it's pretty much a train wreck. There's going to be individual reasons as to what was going on in the country at that time. That's also going to be a factor. Personality, running mates, etc. So other than that, not a whole lot to say. I just thought it would be fun to take a look at these two elections to see how and where Bush dropped off between his two runs. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of the shifts in any of these states? Do you remember any of these two elections? What do you think about Ross Perot? How much of a role did he play in helping out Bill Clinton? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.